At my 60th birthday party, my son raised his glass and said words that cut deeper than any knife. "Mom," Matthew smirked, his eyes flickering toward the guests gathered around the table. "We don't celebrate old people. We tolerate them." The room went silent. Forks froze mid-air, Karen coughed awkwardly into her napkin, and I, Grace, sat perfectly still, smiling like porcelain while my heart cracked in half. It should have been a moment of joy. 60 years of life, 60 years of surviving storms, 60 years of sacrifice. I wanted laughter, warmth, a celebration of family. Instead, I sat in a house I had built, surrounded by people I thought loved me, listening to my own son humiliate me in front of friends, neighbors, and relatives. I could feel everyone watching, waiting for me to burst into tears or lash out. But I didn't. I just lifted my glass, clinked it against his, and whispered so softly that only he could hear. "You'll regret this someday, Matthew. The story of how we got here isn't simple. I raised Matthew on my own. His father died when he was 9, and I worked 3 jobs to keep the lights on. Nights cleaning offices, mornings waiting tables, afternoons sewing clothes for neighbors. I did it all so that Matthew could go to college, so that he could have the kind of life I never had. I poured everything into him. My youth, my health, my savings. When he graduated, I thought all the sacrifices had been worth it. He stood on stage in his cap and gown, smiling, and I was the loudest voice in the crowd cheering for him. I thought I had won. But slowly, things changed. When Matthew married Karen, I welcomed her into the family. She was sharp-tongued but polished, with the kind of confidence money buys. I noticed how she looked at my modest home, my old furniture, the creaky wooden floors. She never said it, but her eyes whispered it every time. "You're beneath us." I ignored it. Love blinds mothers. But little by little, Matthew changed. He stopped calling as often, only came around when he needed something. Money for a car, help with a down payment, babysitting their little girl. And I gave. Always gave. Because that's what mothers do. Until my 60th birthday. Karen had insisted on hosting it at my house, decorating it with golden balloons and a banner that read "Happy Birthday, Grace." The neighbors had brought cakes, old friends came with flowers, even the pastor stopped by with a prayer. For a moment, I thought maybe they still cared. Then Matthew made his toast. 60 years, he said, raising his glass. That's old. I mean, let's be honest here. We don't celebrate old people, right? We tolerate them. But hey, Mom, you've made it this far. So here's to surviving. Laughter rippled through the younger guests. Karen's friends chuckled behind their wine glasses. Even Karen smirked. But the older faces, my friends, my neighbors, looked away, embarrassed for me. I smiled, but my hand trembled under the tablecloth. Something inside me hardened in that moment. The part of me that had been soft, forgiving, endlessly giving, it went cold. Later that evening, after the guests had eaten and the music had died down, Matthew cornered me in the kitchen. "You're not mad, are you?" he asked casually, stuffing another slice of cake into his mouth. "It was just a joke." "Jokes reveal the truth," I replied. He rolled his eyes. "Oh, come on, Mom. You can't expect us to worship you just because you're old now. That's not how life works." I stared at him, my son, the boy I once rocked to sleep during thunderstorms. The boy I had held when he cried after his father's funeral. The boy I had carried, fed, clothed, and bled for. And he was looking at me like I was nothing. I wanted to scream. But instead, I whispered, "One day, you'll understand what it feels like to give everything and get nothing back." He just shrugged. "Whatever." Oh, by the way, Karen and I were wondering, what's going to happen with the house when, you're gone? My blood turned to ice. "The house?" I asked. "Yeah," he said, as if asking about the weather. "I mean, it's kind of big for you now, don't you think? You don't need all this space. Karen and I could move in, fix it up, make it ours. You could get a nice little apartment somewhere. Senior friendly. I stared at him, speechless. He wasn't joking. He wasn't drunk. He was serious. You want me to leave my own house? I whispered. Not now, he said quickly, patting my shoulder like I was a child. Just eventually. You know, when you can't keep up anymore. That night, after everyone had gone home, I sat in the living room alone. The balloons floated in the dark. The cake crumbs lay scattered across plates. I looked around at the house I had built with my late husband, the walls lined with decades of memories, and I wept. But grief didn't last long. Something stronger rose up inside me. Resolve. If my son thought I was weak, if he thought I was disposable, then he had forgotten who raised him. He had forgotten whose hands had built his future. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to remind him. The next morning, I made a decision. I picked up the phone, called an old friend who worked in real estate, and whispered the words that sealed Matthew's fate. I want to sell the house. But I wasn't going to tell him. Not yet. Instead, I began planning my own gift for my ungrateful son. A gift that would show him the price of disrespect. Days turned into weeks, and I played my part well. I smiled when Matthew called, nodded when Karen complained, acted like nothing had changed. But behind their backs, I was signing papers, meeting with agents, making arrangements. The house sold quickly. Too quickly. A lovely young couple bought it, excited to raise their children in a home filled with love. I handed them the keys with a smile, my heart both breaking and soaring. The house was gone. But so was the burden. All that remained was the final act. Matthew's greed had opened the door for a lesson he would never forget, and I was going to deliver it in a way that would sting for the rest of his life. I waited patiently for the right moment, the right stage. And fate, as it often does, delivered it to me. A month later, Karen called, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. Grace, she said, we've been thinking. Maybe you should make things official. You know, with the house deed. It would mean so much to Matthew if you transferred it over. For peace of mind. I smiled to myself. The timing was perfect. Of course, I said warmly. Why don't you both come over next weekend? I'll give Matthew his gift then. When I hung up the phone, my hands trembled, not from fear, but from anticipation. Because next weekend, in front of everyone, my son would learn the truth. And it would change his life forever. The following weekend, the house was spotless. I baked Matthew's favorite pie, set the table with fresh flowers, and even put on the pearl necklace his father once gave me. If this was to be a performance, I would play the role to perfection. When Matthew and Karen arrived, they came with smug smiles, like wolves stepping into a pasture. Karen wore a new designer dress. Matthew carried a bottle of wine. Mom, Karen said sweetly, kissing my cheek. You look wonderful. 60 really suits you. I smiled. Thank you, dear. Sit down. I have something special for you both. Their eyes lit up instantly. They thought they were about to win. They thought they were about to strip me of the only thing they believed mattered, my house. I poured the wine, served slices of pie, and let the anticipation build. The room was thick with it. Matthew fidgeted. Karen leaned forward. Finally, I stood up and pulled out a crisp white envelope from my purse. This, I said, holding it delicately between my fingers, is my gift to you, Matthew. His eyes widened. Karen gasped. The deed? Matthew asked, reaching out eagerly. I nodded. Yes. The deed to this house. They nearly jumped out of their chairs. Matthew snatched the envelope like a starving man grabbing bread. He pulled the papers out, scanning them quickly. Karen clutched his arm, her face glowing with triumph. I knew it, she whispered. I told you she'd finally come to her senses. But then, I cleared my throat. There's just one thing, I said, my voice calm, almost too calm. They froze. You see, Matthew, when you humiliated me on my birthday, when you looked me in the eye and told me I didn't matter anymore, something in me broke. And when you asked about this house, like it was already yours, well, something else woke up. Karen's smile faltered. Matthew's brow furrowed. What are you talking about? He asked slowly. I leaned forward, lowering my voice until it was sharp enough to cut. I already sold the house. The words dropped like a bomb. Matthew blinked. What? Karen shot up from her chair. You. What do you mean you sold it? I folded my hands neatly. I mean that the house no longer belongs to me. Or to you. A young couple bought it. Lovely people. They're excited to raise their children here, in a home filled with love. Matthew's face turned red. His voice cracked like thunder. You sold my inheritance. Your inheritance. I repeated, my voice rising now, steady with fury. This was never yours, Matthew. This house was built with my hands, with your father's sweat, with my sacrifices. You never lifted a brick, never paid a bill, never lost a night's sleep over it. It was mine. And I chose what to do with it. Karen's lips twisted. How could you do this to your own son? Do you have any idea how ungrateful you sound? I laughed. Actually laughed. A deep, bitter laugh that startled even me. Ungrateful. I snapped. I gave that boy my entire life. I gave him food when I had none. Clothes when mine were torn. I worked 3 jobs so he could go to college, while I walked to work in shoes with holes. And on the day I should have been celebrated, he mocked me. He called me old, useless, tolerated. And now you dare call me ungrateful. Matthew slammed the table, the wine glasses rattling. So what, Mom? You're going to throw everything away just to spite me? Do you have any idea what you've done to us? To you. I whispered, leaning closer. I've done nothing to you. I've simply reminded you that respect is not bought with gifts, or assumed because of blood. Respect is earned. And you lost mine the day you humiliated me. For a long moment, silence filled the room. Matthew's chest heaved with rage. Karen's face was pale, trembling with fury. And me. I felt lighter than I had in years. But I wasn't finished. Do you want to know where the money went? I asked softly. Matthew's head snapped up. What money? The money from the sale. I leaned back, savoring the moment. It went into a trust. Not for you. Not for Karen. For your daughter. My granddaughter. Because she deserves to grow up knowing her grandmother valued her future, even when her father did not value his past. Matthew's mouth fell open. Karen gasped, her hand flying to her chest. You can't do that, she sputtered. Oh, but I can, I said firmly. And I did. Every penny is locked away until she turns 18. She will inherit what you thought was yours. And maybe then, when she asks you why, you'll have to tell her the truth. That her grandmother gave everything, and her father gave nothing but disrespect. Matthew's hands shook. His face was crimson with shame and fury. You've ruined me, Mom, he whispered. No, I said, my voice steady as steel. I've saved you. Because maybe, just maybe, this will be the lesson that changes you. You will remember this day every time you think of me. Every time you walk past this house. Every time you look into your daughter's eyes. You'll remember that age is not weakness. And that a mother's dignity is not yours to trample. Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Not this time. Matthew stood, fists clenched. Karen grabbed his arm, whispering frantically, but he didn't move. He just stared at me, hatred and regret battling behind his eyes. Then, without another word, he stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Karen followed, but not before turning back, her voice sharp as venom. You'll regret this, Grace. I met her glare with calm silence. The door closed. The house was quiet again. I sat back down, my hands trembling, and for the first time in years, I felt peace. Because I had given Matthew a gift far greater than a house. I had given him a lesson, one he would carry for the rest of his life. And I had given myself something too: freedom. Later that night, as I sat by the window watching the stars, I whispered to my late husband, "I did it, love. I finally stood up. For us. For her. For me." And in the stillness, I felt him there. Proud. So on my 60th birthday, when my son told me we don't celebrate old people, I answered him the only way I knew how, with dignity, with resolve, and with a gift that changed everything. Because age is not the end. It is the crown of survival. And I will wear mine with pride. What would you do if you were in Grace's shoes? Should age ever be a reason to disrespect someone? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.